what you often called the biggest trap in B2B. How should one approach positioning when everybody's saying the same thing?
Everyone is saying the same thing, then probably it's not positioning. Now, nobody wakes up in the morning and says, "Yeah, I need some AI." Don't sell me the drill. Don't even sell me the hole. Show me the kind of peace of mind that I get when my house is finally in order. So, in majority of business, earlier marketing's role used to end at the generation of the funnel. And I would think that as marketing leaders and future marketing professionals, you should try looking at it beyond that. Earlier, the buyer purchase used to end at the purchase. The buyer journey used to end at the purchase. But now the journey is not ending at the purchase. The journey is coming back.
Today on Marketing Growth Fuel, we're joined by Sanjay Gopinath, Head of Marketing and Communications at MathWorks, and a seasoned leader in shaping brand narratives for technical and engineering-driven organizations. He has led high-impact marketing and communication strategies across global enterprises, helping bridge the gap between complex technologies and engaging storytelling. At MathWorks, Sanjay is building awareness, driving engagement across industry and academia, and enabling sales through demand generation, turning campaigns into culture and ensuring the brand connects with innovators, students, and enterprises alike. Let's get started. All right, so welcome back to Marketing Growth Fuel, the podcast where we go beyond frameworks to uncover the people and purpose behind great marketing. Welcome to the show, Sanjay.
Thank you, Vikram. Happy to be here.
Sanjay, let's start with what you often called the biggest trap in B2B. That's sounding like everyone else. Every brand today claims to be either AI powered or customer obsessed. But does that mean anything anymore? And how should one approach positioning when everybody's saying the same thing?
Yeah, good question, Vikram. And let me just add by saying that it's probably not just B2B, but where our marketing exists, because positioning is so fundamental to the product, the brand, whatever you carry, right? So to answer your question in one line, it is, I think if everyone is saying the same thing, then probably it's not positioning. You need to kind of think a little bit harder. And I have this anecdote which got on to me from somewhere earlier about this famous story. And sorry, some of the listeners may know the story. The famous story of a drill versus hole. So assume that your company is selling a drill, which obviously makes a hole, right? So I want to put a painting up. So I just want to create a hole, which for use I drill. So now, are you selling a drill? So let me start with that. So people don't want a quarter-inch hole. People don't want a hole. People don't want a quarter-inch drill.
Right.
But people want a quarter-inch hole. So now, and then I want you to kind of think a little bit deeper enough. So now, actually, is the hole what people want? So why do you need the hole? So I want a hole to hang a shelf. Now, why do you need a shelf? I want the shelf to have some books which I have. And so why do you need that? Because if I keep all the books on my floor, it looks very cluttered. And this will give me a sense of calm, control, and all those things, right? So you see how this conversation is going.
Right.
Now, you may think that I'm selling a drill, and if my company is selling the drill, and I took a very common B2C example, when a company is selling a drill, and you position it, hey, I'm selling a quarter-inch drill, this can actually drill faster, you are going to get the same messages from the next company next door. So now how do you differentiate? Now coming to the question more, I would say more relevant or contemporary question of AI, if everybody says that I'm AI, right? Now, nobody wakes up in the morning and says, hey, I need some AI. So now you start from there, right? Now you have to ask those questions, hey, why do you need AI? Okay, I need AI so that I get my work done faster, so that I don't do work at 9 p.m. in the night. That may be the answer. So you have to, as a marketer or as a product marketer or as anybody who is close to that brand or product, you should ask these questions to the customer Better still, if you can observe him, that what is he gaining by using your product or using the technology, and then try to appeal to those feelings as a human, even if it's B2B. And I have this famous sentence which I often quote, that when you put on a coat, you don't become unemotional, and you don't become rational. So finally, we are all humans. You
Yes,
are not
absolutely.
selling to the walls of the company. You are selling to a human sitting inside that company, even if it's B2B. That's why I'm just connecting to B2B. People may think that, hey, Sanjay, this may work with B2C, but how is it B2B? We are still selling to the people who are inside that company. They are still human. They have their own emotions. They have their own feelings. I think that's probably where I'll end. So don't sell me the drill. Don't even sell me the whole. Show me the kind of peace of mind that I get when my house is finally in order. I
Right.
think that's where the positioning lives, be it AI or be it a small drill which you are selling. I
Got
hope
it.
that.
Yeah, no, no, absolutely, absolutely. What I'm understanding is that when you look at positioning, right? So it's not about the labels; it's about the value, it's about the feeling, it is about the emotion. And largely maybe it's about the relevance as well. But I think it could so happen that the sharpest narratives, can fall flat when this is across teams. How do you ensure that the story that you're trying to tell stays consistent across functions like sales and product and CX and to the buyer as well at the end of the
Yeah, sure. Narrative is anyway again a string that kind of touches and stitches all this together, and this is where your story, your positioning, your value proposition, everything has to be communicated in some way or the other, right? Where there's a which makes sense to the customer. And I completely agree with you. If the sales is saying something, marketing is saying something, and finally, and buy a product, I'm getting an experience which is different than the customer, you probably lost the customer. So narrative is not a slide deck. Let me just start from there. I mean, people just confuse that way. My narrative, that's in slide deck, communicated, expected to slide deck, slide deck, right? So now you can think of examples like, say, for example, people sales may come back and say, hey, people love the campaign, but when they look at the demo, they are still confused. Now, how can this happen? So you may think that, okay, it's the way in which we do the demo, but it may not be the way in which we do the demo. So that's where we kind of understand what are you telling the customer at each touch point, as you rightly mentioned. So it's what is sales saying. So sales is probably, marketing is probably initially spreading the news, right? So marketing is probably saying that, okay, my product is about speed and simplicity. And then probably the sales is when the sales is demoing the product, they are talking about the configurability of the product or the depth of the product. So you see, now I talked about speed and simplicity, and now this guy is going and talking about features and features. Now, how is it connected to simplicity? So that's there itself, the problem starts. And when you come to, okay, now finally, somehow I bought the product, and then I'm working with the team which is onboarding me, which is typically the customer experience team. And they talk about sophisticated steps. So you first talked about speed and simplicity, and finally the steps to even onboard, long drawn process of onboarding, that is also sophisticated. So this kind of completely falls flat. So for B2B companies to get the narrative straight, I mean, I call it the operating system to communicate. So you should have the same operating system. You may communicate it through different apps. But if you think of your mobile phone, right, you have your operating system on the mobile phone, you have different apps on the mobile phone. So, but the operating system is shared. It is the power of the operating system which is communicated across all the apps. The experience is more or less seamless when you have the same operating system. You know how to go back. You know what happens when I touch on that particular thing. What happens I double click on that. Companies should take care, spend time on making sure that these products are not just roadmaps, but they actually communicate. Product doesn't just build roadmaps, but they communicate and reinforce the core promise which you are offering. And is that promise consistent across multiple channels? So I'd probably end by saying that narrative isn't actually what marketing says. It's not a slide deck, as I told earlier. It is about what the customer hears at every touch point.
And So Sanjay, if we all get it right, so we get that narrative clarity, it's grounded, the customer understands it, maybe all your functions, it could be sales, it could be product, it could be CX, all deliver on it. Uh, you know, uh, I think the next logical question to ask would be, how do you bring that narrative to life? And I think that probably starts with the idea of, how do you structure a marketing org to balance brand, demand, and maybe innovation as well.
So it's very good question. So it's always you have brand, you have performance, and probably you have innovation also. Then how do you balance as a marketing leader or a marketing organization? How do you balance that? And I feel that it is a healthy tension that we should have in an organization. It's like friction. So you say
Right.
that there are a lot of cases where you find a friction is not necessary, but without friction, many things won't happen. You and I will not sit in the chair if there is no friction, right? But in some cases, when you want to smoothen things up, you try to roll things out faster. Friction actually resists that. So it's something like a friction, and I say that it is not a bug. It's actually a feature which every marketing organization should have. And if I'm the person who is running the marketing organization, I should run it like a portfolio. So I should know when to actually go deeper into some of those things, press harder on some of those things, and when to kind of cool down on some of those things. I think that is the game, that's a dance that any organization should have. Now, the other point, especially in B2B marketing organizations, and you touched on the innovation part, and I'll probably start from there before I go to brand and demand. Innovation has to be seen at a longer horizon. I had this interesting story which I've quoted again multiple times in a movie called Focus, which is a Hollywood movie. Will Smith is there. So Will
Yeah.
Smith is a con artist,
Right.
gambler, goes around fooling people and making money. So there is this rich fellow. He wants to get some money out of this guy by placing some bet. Now, finally, so they meet at the viewing box of a American football match.
Right. Right. I remember this.
Yeah, you do. I mean, I hope you've seen. So then
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
kind of
Absolutely. I've
do
seen
that,
this.
and then finally, I think they say, "Hey, you pick a number from the ground, any jersey, and I'm going to guess it." So now,
Right.
so there's his partner, Bill's partner, said, "Hey, like, what's happening here? Like, you lost all the money, and like, how do you?" No, let him guess it. I think he guesses number 55. So and then Will Smith had already guessed it. Now we may think that was random act, man. This is like random. He just made it two-digit number, one-digit, two-digit number. You made it, but the story goes like how he primed that
Yeah. I
particular
remember this. I remember
particular
this.
guy, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I
So
remember
he
this.
showed him a taxi number 55, room number 55, balloon showing
Absolutely.
55,
He showed
and
them
then
on a
one person,
bus. Yeah.
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is where the brand plays in. So we don't see that. So now when you look at the last act again, we see that yes, that was a random act or Sanjay got lucky. Now that is not the case. So you give that impression, imprint the customer's mind with multiple impressions of your brand. I mean, of course, don't spam him. That's bad. But multiple impressions in a subtle manner, right? So here again, we are not saying 55, 55, 55 in front of him, but in a subtle ways, those are coming in multiple channels. So now we talk about omni-channel, right? So then you have your performance marketing or whatever you call demand marketing and follow up that with the right campaigns. Then it works. So that's a dance we have to do as a B2B marketer. I'm sure that there are quarters or there are years where they say, hey, we need some leads. So you may just go and then do that, but without having a foundation or an engine which is running to create that brand awareness, I think it's very difficult to sustain performance marketing for long. Especially in B2B, just by sending an email, I mean, nobody will come to you by just sending an email. So, yeah, so you have to give that nurturing to that person before he becomes an opportunity and becomes a funnel and become a revenue. And I have got lots of experience to say that sometimes these insights are hidden in stories which come. It is not in your data. That's why, as a marketer, if it's a big learning which I want to share with the audience is that okay, now you have to listen very intensely, not just your customers, but your sales teams, but your product-facing product teams and all. And that's where insights come in, not just from looking at some dashboard and creating some beautiful campaigns. For me, at least, they have not worked consistently.
But the flip side of this, I think, Sanjay, is that, when I think a lot of this may or goes out for a toss when we really chasing performance targets, isn't it? So you want to innovate, you want to test, you want to fail, you want to have those learnings, but then there is that pressure, building up, somebody breathing down your neck, and then how do you then manage that?
It's a dance which we have to play on brand and performance marketing. I think brand is something which is always on. So it has to be always on in terms of you need to have. So if I'm a marketer, this again I'm relying on my experience. I need to have some activities that's always on. Of course, you will dial down and dial up the money you spend on that, but they're always on. And there are a lot of organic ways of doing it. So you have your experts talking about it. Can you create some blogs, articles, videos, and all those, which are your own people doing it. So probably you don't need much investment into it. When I say investment, of course, investment of time is there, but investment of money, you are not buying those things, right? Can you create that thought leadership around some of the activities you're doing, which is also propagating your brand? Is your brand seen as a facilitator of the ecosystem? So some of the brands which I've worked with personally are in the industry, they are seen as facilitators of the ecosystem. So we are not probably purposefully getting some leads out of it. But when we bring people together, then connects happen, and then they will again that imprint happens in them. So some of those things have to happen as is on every time. And of course, there are as I said earlier, there are places where you dial down some of your investments, and then probably you add some of your investment. Now, performance marketing is probably very reliant or very based on what you have an objective for the year, and that comes from the business. So for example, if this year my objective is to generate more funnel, then which is there for every year, so then my idea is to run those campaigns towards that. My performance tactics are towards that. Now in some cases we say that, hey, this is good, but we need to have a healthy inflow of new business. So then my performance marketing tactics may a little bit change. The audience I look at will change. Okay, now earlier I was trying to get more out of my existing customers, but now I have to go and get a different set of customers. So I would think, in short, is that if you have a strong brand, then your pipeline generation becomes cheaper. Your performance marketing becomes cheaper. So you cannot ignore brand and then think that I pump in more and more money. Then it becomes costlier to a point that you will not be able to afford your pipeline generation. So that is where I think you have to kind of dial it up, and also that you get into some space where you have a strong equity brought into the market, trust with your customer base. You get feedback from other functions on how to improve your brand, and that makes your pipeline generation. So I get that there's a tension between these, but as marketers, I think managing that tension itself is one of your prime responsibilities, if you ask me.
You play the dance, you handle that tension, you probably set the team in motion, and then there's the brand side that you're trying to build. Then obviously, there's the performance marketing side where you're really trying to do more with what you have. Now the question I think arises is, how do we measure what matters? And I think in B2B, it isn't always as simple as lead generated, right? So, what's your framework for evaluating campaign success beyond the traditional?
Sure, Vikram. And that's a very interesting question. And again, I always say that I'm work in progress. So we are also learning and studying from others, and also experimenting and failing and succeeding. So again, I love dashboards, but of course, don't overcomplicate the dashboards, because people cannot make decisions just by looking at the dashboards. And I'll come to some of my personal examples there, and especially in B2B purchases. So what are some of the peculiarities of B2B purchases? It is long, much longer than your B2C cycles. There are more people involved in a B2C purchase, a B2B purchase, than B2C purchase. In B2C purchase, if I have to buy this mobile phone, then I can go and buy it. Now, if my son has to buy a mobile phone, probably he has to tell me that, yes, why I need a mobile phone, and then, so there are two people. But in B2B, there are enough studies which says that there are 10 to 11 people in a
Absolutely, absolutely.
purchase. Now, even if I'm the head of that particular department, which is adopting AI into the organization, and if I have a product which is an AI, and the head is convinced that, okay, Sanjay, this is a product, I love it, but he cannot make a decision till his team, the users will say that, oh, yeah, this is a good tool, we can use it, simple to use, easy configurable, adaptable to our system, integratable to our system, just go, sir. Now, he will say that, hey, I'm good, you need to convince these people, all the people. And then obviously there is a commercial negotiation now. So now in that context, it becomes difficult for us to measure it every touch point. And I'll give you one example. It is very, very difficult. I have not seen a single B2B system till now which measures all these touch points.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you need multiple touch points. It's not that, as I told earlier, it's not that I send an email or I send an ad and then people click on it and say, I need this 100,000 worth product of yours. Nobody says that, right? So how do you do that? Now, if that person is, so finally the end act may be that, but there may be like 7 or 8 things he would have done. He would have seen advertisement. He would have been driving to the airport and he would have seen that. He would have heard it from a friend, Vikram, who said that, hey, I used this tool that was like cool.
And I think that kind of brings me to a topic that is, I think you are very passionate about, which is about rethinking best practices. I'd rather ask you this the other way, right? So in your experience, what is that one secret in B2B marketing, that it's time we let go or we, unlearn?
That's a good one. And I would say that the B2B buyer is a rational being. Again, I've time and again been saying that. Again, I started wrong. I mean, I have no qualms in saying that. I also I'm still a very data-driven marketer. But there is lot. I mean, studies after studies have proven that there is a lot of emotions at play. And I told you earlier that we are not selling to the walls of the company. If that person has fought with his wife and come to office, that's going to ruin his mood. Yeah. He's not going to switch off that and when he enters the room and say, hey, Sanjay, bring on the presentation. I'm a very rational being, right? And
happens to the best of us, I was say.
Yeah. Happens to all of us. So, I mean, you have Daniel Kahneman. And actually, that book, and if you're a marketer and listening to this, Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman, you may think that is psychology, it's economics, but that book kind of changed my way of thinking. I strongly recommend. And there are like a series of books after that. Daniel Kahneman has been a god of this, recently passed away. And there are studies done, and now we have methods to kind of validate this, methods to kind of do this. So now there are ways in which we can measure this and then make sure that which is right or which is wrong. It's a B2B, B2C example. So now he talks about, and something which I recently wrote about is the peak and rule, which says that, okay, we talked about customer experience, Vikram, earlier, right? So what do the customer remember? So now, let me pause a moment. It's about the remembrance of the customer than actually the experience itself. So what the customer remembers of that event. Okay, I attended this event by this company. More than that, he will have some 2 or 3 points from that particular event, which he'll remember after 2 or 3 years or probably 6 months.
Correct.
Because we are being bombarded by a lot of data, right? So he talks about peak and rule, which is, again, peak is, okay, can you give a peak to the customer, a peak experience to the customer? And can you end it on a high? And as a B2B marketer, I've kind of time and again tried to do this even when I'm interacting with people. So it's not just B2B. Because that's what I find, they say we are all people. So when you meet with somebody, there's an interesting guy on Instagram, I'm forgetting his name. So what he does is that he just goes on the road, and then if Vikram is coming, hey, Vikram, it's a nice beard we are maintaining. I've never seen that. So you see that you will remember that. You will remember that.
Absolutely, yeah.
You will remember that guy. And he has, he's very good. And he has got the smartest ways of thinking. I like the way you walk, Sanjay. Keep it up. That's what he says. And it's an interesting guy. You should check him out.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So as a B2B marketer, people may think that, hey, that's 101. But as a B2B marketer, can I extrapolate that experience into my events, into my website, into the demos, into the emails which I am doing, so that the person will say, hey, that was cool. I will remember Sanjay for that. I will remember brand A for that. So this will happen. This will happen only when we think of this B2B buyer as a human, not as a rational person who completes this ROI charts and all. I'm not denying the fact that data is important. We have to do that, but the nudge happens through these emotions. So data to back it up, you always need to say that. But the nudge happens through these emotions, and emotions we can convey only when we understand him as a human, not as a somebody who becomes rational when he puts on the suit.
For the better part of what we've discussed is obviously the now, right? But marketing is also about building what's coming next. So you at one point, like we discussed, you're trying to build a pipeline. There could be performance pressures, and then the other side, we're trying to build a brand, and maybe that's accelerating the pipeline as well as adding to the pipeline, right? So, in your opinion, how do you balance long-term brand equity with maybe short-term pipeline pressures?
I mean, we talked a little bit about that earlier also. So for me, brand, and as I told earlier, that I mean, you have a stronger brand, then your pipeline should get cheaper, get easier and easier. And I've seen it. And the base of this is a trust building procedure, and trust doesn't happen just like that, right? So you have to give it time. It's again a slow burner, so you have to give it time. That doesn't happen through performance marketing. That happens through sometimes one-on-one interactions, sometimes large events, sometimes stand up and say that, hey, I screwed it up. I'm sorry. So even that builds trust. So over a period of time, how do you do that? One, by having consistent messaging across all your channels. We talked about that, right? So how can each touch point that your company is offering build your brand? Because the people see your company, people see your brand through you, who is front-ending that. And be it coming for a job in your company or be it actually trying to buy something. They will not say, they will not talk about the product, but they will talk about, hey, the product which Vikram sold. So if those are the kinds of attributions which people do. So can we just do that consistently over a period of time is a question. So you have to build that activities which are, I would say, from my personal point of view, when I work with companies who don't have too much of budgets, then over a period of time, you build this a bunch of people, maybe inside and outside, who can talk about your brand. So inside, of course, outside may cost, but inside you talk about that. Can you amplify some of their messages? Can you get your customers to write testimonials for you? And can you amplify that? People are coming for an event. So Vikram came for an event this year, and I just captured his testimonial, and Vikram just loved the event. So Vikram says, hey, Sanjay, it was lovely coming for an event. If you're a tech guy working in AI, you should come for this event. Then I use that to kind of share it with others. So these are all, I would say, not kind of performance activities, but also builds a brand. Hey, Vikram, trust the brand. So I can also trust the brand because Vikram lives across me. When I say lives across me, it is a metaphorical way of saying that Vikram is like me.
Right.
So if Vikram is like me and Vikram loves the brand, then I should also try the brand. That's how we buy, right? When we buy a car, we typically check with our friends. So same thing happens in B2B purchase also. Now, performance marketing, in many cases, is budget driven. Let's be very honest about that. So now, if your brand is strong, then probably you can run it with a less budget. But unfortunately, in many cases, we need that budget to do that performance marketing. And many platforms are getting into a way that the organic reach of the platforms are getting lesser and lesser and lesser. And all of them want us to pay. So that makes performance marketing even digitally also difficult.
Correct.
It'll be good since performance marketing gives a lot of metrics. It'll be good for you can understand which channel is working. And the earlier you understand, you can figure out to apportion your budgets accordingly. You also can figure out to eliminate some of the channels that don't invest time on this channel because that's not working for me. The other aspect is that do a lot of test. Because if you don't do tests, then you don't know what is working. You think this is working because you have seen it in some other place, which is fine. It's a very good place to start with. But you don't know how it is working there. Well, last year I got 100 leads from this campaign. Let me put 1.2x into 1.2x into this, and I'll get 120 leads. I mean, would that happen? I don't know. I don't think so. So doing the same things may get you the same results, but that may not scale as well. Before you kind of put a large amount of money into anything, if you can test and then quickly test a few things, do that. And also in B2B, because the campaigns, we talked about campaigns being longer, right? In performance marketing, you have to see it as an integrated campaign or integrated approach. You may have one tactic working, but if what you lead from that tactic to the next one and that is not working, then your campaign kind of fails. So you will have to individually measure the tactics performance, their efficacy, and you have to see it as a campaign. As a campaign, has it worked? So these are some of the places where I will see how we are moving. Future means the basics. There's no rocket sciences, but sticking to basics, understanding it better, using technologies like AI and all. If it can accelerate your job, then why not do it? So with AI coming in, we can test faster. When you test faster, we fail faster. When you fail faster, you can test more, and then you can get to that right messaging that works for your customer, the right advertisement that works for your customer, maybe the right channel that works for your customer.
I think obviously brand is a long-term multiplier, and in many ways, I think trust is the new currency.
Yeah.
Right.
Nicely put. Yeah.
And I think in 2025, I mean, we are halfway through 2025.
Right. So
and
fast.
We're probably now starting to plan for 2026 in many ways. If you were advising CXOs or CMOs or marketing leaders of where they should invest, would it be brand, would it be performance, or would it be CX? I mean, how do you look at that for the future?
I think if I'm given a choice, then it will be with that rather than or. But if you're putting a gun on my head and saying that you have to pick one, then it is CX.
Okay.
And why I'm saying so is that I think you use the term multiplier, right? So I think brand and performance marketing gets multiplied when CX is in shape. So brand, as you rightly said, is an investment of future. Performance is for your particular quarter. And CX is a multiplier which actually works across that foundation. And then we talked about this in Daniel Kahneman context. As a CX guy, can you create those experiences that makes your brand an emotion rather than a one-time purchase? Right. That's where the loyalty come in. And majority of the brand, Vikram, and you know that you have been talking to a lot of people, majority of the brands are now looking at annual subscriptions, right?
Correct.
So they are not looking at, Sanjay bought once for lifetime, that's going. I'm giving you take any brand, your SaaS models, or anybody is looking at their annual subscription. So it's not your purchase. Earlier, the buyer purchase used to end at the purchase. The buyer journey used to end at the purchase. But now the journey is not ending at the purchase. The journey is coming back into how we are actually helping the adoption of the tool. Because if the person is not adopting the tool, then the person is not going to come back and renew. Yeah, so that's where the customer experience comes in big time play. Yeah, so I bought from Sanjay, but next year when Sanjay comes in, hey, hi Vikram, why don't you just renew it? I bought it, Sanjay, but I never used it. This happens with majority of the apps which you download on a mobile phone, right? We see it free, just download, but how many of the apps we pay? With Spotify, it's a classic example. They will nudge you in a right way. They will give you a wrap at the end of the year. And I mean, like they do that nicely so that it is not very intrusive, but actually they are nudging you to that purchase. And of course, there are offers which come in between like 3 months for 149 rupees or something like that. So can you build that adoption into your buyer cycle is my ask to marketers. So that's where the CX becomes. And now the holy grail of this for me, if you ask me, is that if I adopt your product very well, then I become an advocate of your product. So it becomes a flywheel.
Right.
That Vikram trusted the brand Sanjay. Vikram bought brand Sanjay. Vikram adopted the brand Sanjay well. And then Vikram is going and talking about brand to others. So my marketing goes, we talked about the performance marketing, right? I mean, that's going down because Vikram is going and talking. So how many advocates can I get? And it becomes a flywheel. Vikram talks to 5 people, one of them will buy, and that guy will. So that is where the challenge is. So in majority of the business, earlier marketing's role used to end at the generation of the funnel. And I would think that as marketing leaders and future marketing professionals, you should try looking at it beyond that. And maybe there are a lot of feedbacks also coming from that customer experience part, which you can bring it back into your campaign. You see how it happens. And can there be campaigns to help adoption? That's another, and some of the market companies do that. Campaigns to help adoption. When I see that Vikram is using this particular feature more, what can I intelligently tell Vikram? Or if I see Vikram is not using this feature more or this particular aspect module less, then what is the message that I give to Vikram? And now because of technology, we have this data available. And if our communication narrative, we talked about it, can I, if my narrative becomes consistent, can I just nudge Vikram to use it more so that it's for Vikram's value. It's not for my value. It's for Vikram's value. To Vikram, 70% of the people who have used this tool have made or have got value from this particular aspect. You say that, and then you see it's like again coming back to some of the example is like you get into a hotel, and then hotels say there is sustainability. If you don't want to use if you don't want to reuse the tool, leave it on the floor. We will pick it up, but we prefer that you reuse the towel. Now, that's a message you can give. Now, some of us will do that. Some of us may not do that. But if you say that 70% of the people in this room have reused the towel, now where do I land? I would want to be that 70%. I don't want to be that 30%, the black guy. So I don't want to do that, right? So that is where I think marketing has to look through in terms of create advocates out of it. Can I kind of create that flywheel effect? They say that it's no more the funnel, it's a flywheel. But can I create the flywheel effect and reduce my performance marketing costs? My brand gets better, all costs by the way, and I can invest in better activities. I hope that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. In my opinion, I think in B2B, a lot of the times, the customer experience that you provide becomes the brand. And before we, kind of say goodbye to you, let's end this with something light, a quick game that we'd like to play with marketing leaders such as yourself. We call this segment the this or that marketing mashup.
Okay, let's see.
So I'm gonna give you two options. I just wanted to be quick and candid, not thinking much, very instinctive, if I was to say. Ready? Let me know when you're ready.
Good. Let's give it a try.
All right. So brand awareness or lead generation?
Yeah, brand, as I've been saying, because brand probably lessens your lead generation costs.
Product marketing or content marketing?
Product marketing, because if you don't have a good product, then you cannot tell a story.
Organic growth or paid acceleration?
I would say organic, because paid gets attention, but organic builds trust long term.
Top of the funnel or bottom of the funnel?
Yeah, as a marketer, I love top. Without the curiosity which we have at the top, there is nothing we can convert at the bottom. So build it on the top.
True. Email nurture or LinkedIn outreaches?
I would say LinkedIn, because it's more personal and you can probably touch the person a bit more emotionally there.
Persona mapping or journey mapping?
And journey mapping, because I think there's too much of interest on persona, but the decisions are not just, again, based on some demographics. It's more psychographics, multiple people. We talked about that.
ABM campaigns or demand gen blitz?
Yeah, I would go for ABM campaign, because I've gone other days when you have to spray and pray. I think probably you have to do some sniper attacks.
A global playbook or something that's localized, or probably localized customization?
Again, local for sure. I guess culture has got a strong bearing on what our messages should look like, what our action look like. Culture wins heads down in any journey like this.
Influencer advocacy or analyst validation?
Yeah, I would say the influencer advocacy, because it's more personal than maybe the logos of some of the analysts.
MQL targets or pipeline velocity?
Yeah, pipeline velocity, we talked about that. Being a B2B marketer, I think volume is probably a vanity metrics Velocity brings more value.
Quarterly KPIs or long-term brand equity?
Long-term brand equity,
And the final one, AI-powered content or human-crafted content?
human content. So there was an interesting story. There was a time when, of course, I used a lot of AI, ChatGPT to start with, and I pretty active on LinkedIn. And I would love to people to connect on LinkedIn. But initially, I used to be reliant on ChatGPT. I trained something to kind of ChatGPT to talk about it. But again, now I still feel when I'm looking at some of the analytics, I'm a data-driven marketer, so I'm looking at analytics from my post, my language, my things which I write myself, they are getting more traction than the other ones. Yeah, so yes, AI helps. I mean, not to say that AI is not bad, but I think it's AI with you. That's good. It's not AI getting to replace you. I think that's probably the learning I have from my own experience.
Fantastic. I was having on a sidebar. I was having a chat with the founder today morning, and we were discussing this post that's going viral on LinkedIn at the moment, where I think it was at Harvard University, who's done a research where they neuromapped individuals using ChatGPT, and it literally showed that your intelligence or your brain functions went down by 40% every
Yeah,
time you use
yeah,
ChatGPT.
yeah. You,
I'll try and share that with you because we're going to do a bite on it, me and Ganesh speaking about it, because I thought
oh,
that was
sure.
very
Good.
unique. But I'll share that with you for reference. I think, it kind of, and I want to share this with the larger audience as well, because I've realized people are getting heavily reliant on AIs and
Yes.
chat GPTs and really letting go of their critical thinking skills and analytical skills to the degree where I think they just, whatever the output is given is they're thinking that's the correct output,
Right.
which may not necessarily be always the case. But great. All right. So before we leave you, just one last wildcard question. We throw this upon our guests. If you had a marketing wand and you could instantly fix one challenge faced by B2B teams across the world, what would you wave it at first?
Yeah, I would probably wave it at the marketer's mind itself and
Okay.
ask him to think that, okay, is that how do you connect with this with your audience? Is it by rational points or is it through emotions? And take a cue from your own personal life, extrapolate it into your business life, and then gain from it.
Great, great. Fantastic answer. Once again, Sanjay, thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate it. Loved your insights, loved your candor. We're planning to host out a roundtable sometime soon. We'd love to have you on that as well. Priyanka probably coordinate that. But thank you once again for joining us. Any parting words?
No, none. So I one thing which I want to probably leave for the youngsters who are coming into the field is see when I started off there was nothing kind of called digital marketing. We were at the early stage of digital marketing, right?
True.
Yeah, and so now mostly everything is digital. So one thing which I have learned in my life is to keep learning, and you have to keep evolving. And one thing which has definitely changed is the rate at which things are moving are definitely gone faster. So you guys have to learn faster than I used to do when I was entering my corporate life. And if you keep learning, I think you will stay relevant. So that's probably something which I would leave the people with: this keep learning. People ask me, I go and talk in several MBA institutes and all. So people ask me, sir, what is the two skill which I should learn so that the question is so that I have a job always. I don't think there are skills like that, but there are few skills like Vikram talked about critical thinking skills. I talk about communication skills, empathy. If you have those kind of what I call as the meta skills, then other skills can be learned.
Correct.
And,
Absolutely.
and those skills, if you can focus on those skills, digital marketing thrown at you, influencer marketing thrown at you, something else thrown at you,
Right.
you will learn. You will
Right.
get it because the fundamentals remain the same. You listen to the customer, right? I mean, that doesn't change. Yeah, so probably I leave it there. And extremely thankful, Vikram, that you and your platform call me for this. It's always great sharing my experiences with people like you and then listening from you. So I also learn a lot from these experiences. So thanks a lot. It was great talking to you. Loved it.
Great. Thank you so much once again, Sanjay.
Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoy this episode, subscribe on YouTube, Instagram, or your favorite podcast app. Catch past episodes and more at techdogs.com. See you next time.